I want to encourage you. There is a problem. It may be narcissism. It may not be narcissism. There is a problem. If you're watching this, there is a problem. Whether it's narcissism, addiction, intimacy, anorexia, which we'll talk about. But before we go down that road, I want to just take a moment. I really want to validate your pain. If you're a partner of a sex addict, intimacy anorexic, someone who's committed infidelity, or a narcissist, or any other disorder, you are in real pain. Every part of your life has been impacted, traumatized by their choices. These are not things you've done. This is not stuff you signed up for. Whether they have features of a disorder or addiction, you're in pain. If they have tendencies toward a disorder, you're in pain. Your pain's real. I want to take a moment and just say that you're not in any way responsible for their addictions, their bad choices, their intimacy anorexia, or even disorder. None of that has to do with you as a wife or a husband. None of that was probably after you were married. Now, sometimes addictions will start after marriage, but what's going on underneath was there way before you married them, okay? You are not in any way responsible for this, any more than if your child gets some kind of crazy disease. You can't blame yourself. You're not responsible. It's not about your parenting. In the same way, it's not because of this or that. Now, I can tell you, if you're married to a man with any of these issues, their immaturity will want to blame you, okay? They will want you to take responsibility because they don't take responsibility. They will want you to overcompensate, overfunction, in which you probably have done for many years or decades. But it is not your fault. You are not to blame. You are 0% responsible for the choices. Now, your pain is driving you to figure what is going on, okay? And that is also healthy. If I have a toothache, I want to find out how to deal with it. If I have a financial pain, legal pain, social pain, interpersonal pain, marriage pain, I want to figure it out. I want the pain to stop. The fact that you're even watching this tape says you're investing in learning. You're investing to try to find out what's going on. That makes you healthy. You are trying to learn and discover what's at the bottom of this. Why am I in so much pain? For that, I applaud you. Your pain is valid. I dedicated my entire life to helping women find out things. Sexual addiction. I coined the term intimacy anorexia. Okay, I coined the term partner betrayal trauma. I was the first one to call you partners instead of co-addicts or giving you all kinds of labels, okay? Your pain is real. There is a real problem. And we just want to make sure that we identify the right problem to get to the right solutions. Now, let me talk about something totally different than narcissism for a moment. And then I want to come back and have a bigger conversation about narcissism or the problem that you are experiencing that is creating pain for you. So let's just talk about depression. Like I shared before, 40% of you watching this will be experiencing depression. But why? So major depression, let's just give you some symptoms, is low energy, difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions, thoughts or feelings of worthlessness, could have suicidal thoughts, weight gain, weight loss, sleep disturbance, not getting pleasure out of activities, feeling agitated. And if you have 5 or more of these characteristics, you could easily be diagnosed with depression. Just like we talked about with narcissism. You have to have so many. Well, with depression, it's 5. So if you go back through that list and you have 5, that would be an assessing for depression. And if you took a psychological test, you would probably come up with major depression as a disorder. Now let's look at the criteria for thyroid. Low thyroid has some symptoms too. Fatigue, weight gain, weakness, pain stiffness, impaired memory, depression, puffy face, thinning of hair, heavy menstrual cycles. Now, someone with low thyroid could easily be misdiagnosed as depressed and be prescribed antidepressants rather than treating the problem, which is a low thyroid. Now, let's keep going. Let's talk about low testosterone for women. Here's some of the characteristics if you have low testosterone: sluggishness, weakness, fatigue, sleep disturbance, low sex drive, decreased sexual satisfaction, weight gain, irregular menstrual cycles. Now, it's really possible a woman with low testosterone can also easily and wrongfully be diagnosed with depression and be given antidepressants instead of treating the low testosterone. It's easy to see someone can have similar symptoms for totally different reasons. I'm going somewhere with this. Let's talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, in Partner Betrayal Trauma book, we talk about this. Most women at 80-90% level will hit several characteristics of partner betrayal trauma. And that is the PTSD symptoms, except as it relates to what you've experienced in marriage. Okay, and we're talking 80 or 90%, that's a big thing. Now, I want to go through just some of the characteristics that apply to depression. I'm not going through all the PTSD. That would take us a whole tape. And we've done that in the book. So if you have PTSD, I would definitely recommend the Partner Betrayal Trauma book. But here's some characteristics: exaggerated negative beliefs about themselves and others, being in a negative emotional state, diminished interest or participation in activities, just not having fun, feeling detached from others, inability to experience positive emotions, problems concentrating, sleep disturbance. Is this sounding familiar? There are more symptoms for PTSD, but you can clearly see a woman married to a sex addict and intimacy anorexic could be misdiagnosed as depressed who is simply dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, diagnosing is complex. For partners of betrayal trauma, I recommend they get their thyroid checked. They get their hormones checked. And they can also do the Cereset treatment in our office, which helps with depression because it restabilizes the brain before they go on an antidepressant. Because clearly someone can have the symptoms that look like a psychological disorder, and it could absolutely not be one. And so there is a problem. But why is there a problem? And I want to use the example of depression because 40% of you watching this could be totally misdiagnosed. How would you like to go to a doctor? Now, if you go to a psychiatrist, the only thing they're going to treat you with is antidepressants because that's their expertise. Now, if they're more open, they might say, before we do that, let's get your thyroid checked, let's get your hormones checked, let's try some other things first before we just jump to the conclusion that you need to be on antidepressants and have the symptoms that go along with being on antidepressants. So I want to encourage you. There is a problem. It may be narcissism. It may not be narcissism, because there are other things that parallel narcissism that have the same symptoms. So you could read, just like a doctor could read, hey, you're sluggish, you're having problems concentrating, you're not really enjoying your life. Oh, let's get you on an antidepressant. As opposed to actually measuring. See, that's the difference between measuring and assessing. Instead of measuring you, they assess you and they throw the wrong medicine at you, and you're treating the wrong problem. Because if you're taking an antidepressant, your hormones are still out of balance. Okay, if you're taking antidepressant and your thyroid's out of balance, it's still out of balance. And it may even be, interacting now with an antidepressant. So you want to know where the problem is so that you're treating the problem. As a woman in pain, you don't want your husband treating a problem he doesn't have. You want him treating a problem he has, because if he has that problem, then the symptoms will go away because he's treating the real problem. So as we walk through this, I want you to be open to the idea that just like depression, there are other things that can cause features or characteristics that are very parallel, very similar to narcissistic personality disorder, but they are not narcissistic personality disorder. They are something other than. And in the same way I would ask you to get your thyroid checked, get your hormones checked, I would ask a man who comes to my office to look at the other things that are going in their life. And some of these are exactly what the DSM talks about. You need to consider before you give an assessment of narcissism personality disorder.